Hey, it's Trisha of Trying with Trisha here. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, as the case may be. What are we talking about today? Today is day 2 of the Goals mini series, and today is your why. Why? How big is your why? Do you even have a why? Well, it's important to have one. If you don't, let's consider it, okay? I just said yesterday in my last video, if all these shoulds come up for you, that's something to look into perhaps, and I was about to say it. So let's take a look. I would say for your long-term success, this is the most critical aspect, is having a big enough why. It's a question you may have heard in different, how big is your why? I'm familiar with it in a different environment like network marketing stuff, but that's not in the way that I mean. How big enough is your why? I've mentioned before, a lot of people that have gotten to know me in the last few years, because I'm a single mother now, think that all of my desire for this or multiple income streams only has to do with the fact that I'm a single mother and I believe in multiple income streams. And although that's true, the desire for me was always in me since I was a child, to not have to I can answer to other people. I can create my own schedule, whatnot. I didn't always know how to go about that. And as you're growing up and just going through life, I don't know anybody that's doing that in the way that I think I want to do it. And I didn't know where to go to have a mentor or just find out, how can I actually do this? Is this really a thing, or is this just me and my very creative mind, right? So how do you know, now that we understand that we have a why, or we should, it's important, it's critical to have a why. How do you know when your why is actually big enough? I have my talking points, people. I'm going to have my talking points because you'll get how I speak. I can veer off into a whole bunch of other things and literally be talking to you like neither of us have anything else to do today. So, staying on point. How do you know when when your why is actually big enough? This is what I would say, that when it's not a want anymore, it's actually moved from that goal, that thing has moved from being a want to a must. I must do this, go there, achieve this thing, whatever the goal is. It has to be something, that conviction, that even if I fail, I'm still going to figure out how to make it happen. So, not letting anything or anyone get in the way, stop you from achieving this goal. Whatever, how can I say it? Whatever goals you have in your life, you still need to be able to answer why. Why is this a thing? Like, why do you want to do it? I have an example that comes to my mind of a classmate I had years ago in grade 7, I think. Although I'm from Canada, born and raised there, my parents are from the islands, they're from Jamaica, and they met in Canada. And I went to school with a lot of the kids I went to junior high and high school with were either first generation Canadians, Canadian born with their parents from somewhere else, islands, the continent of Africa, and a whole bunch of other countries, Italian, Greek, Portuguese, everywhere, right? Toronto is very much a melting pot, very diverse. So certain things were also very relatable to me, and this is why this sticks out. There was a young lady, we'll call her a Serafina. That's not her name. I think it's a beautiful name, and I'm going to go with that. Her family immigrated here. I think she was around 10 years old or so. At this point, we're 13 in grade 7. And, she's a really nice girl. And she's social. She was more social perhaps than into her books. So in grade 8, she was not as social, and she was very much into her books. And I remember just being around this conversation, and somebody was asking her, Serafina, what happened? Like, you don't hang anymore? We don't see you, not even at lunchtime? And although she was still good with all of her peers, what she actually said really stuck with me. She said, listen, I was very social. I played around, fooled around a lot last year, and my grades were not as good as they could have been. She goes, my parents worked. She goes, I'm old enough to remember us moving to Canada, her and her bigger sister. She said, my parents worked too hard and sacrificed so much to bring us here for better opportunities that we don't have back home. And I cannot waste it. I won't do it to my parents. And I don't think I had heard anybody speak with so much conviction about what they would and wouldn't do, and even being so clear about how this may or would affect their parents even, because we were all in grade 8 at this point, so 13, 14 years old. And I was like, I get it, because you hear stories of things that your parents went through to get here to have a better life, create better or more opportunities for themselves, bringing their children or starting their families here. So for her, it's being very purposeful with doing her best with her education and truly valuing it. No skipping class, no hanging out. She's doing her work. She graduated, I think she was the valedictorian. And she did go on and become a lawyer at a young age. She was serious. So I think for her, what made it really tangible was in the year before, when she was becoming popular and hanging out and all this and that, and her grades were doing this, and her parents most likely, I don't know what they said to her, but they probably got in her dear ear for, we didn't go through all of what we went through for you to be here socializing and what have you, right? So for her, it was attached to purpose. Let me get back on track with my academics. I'm really smart, so on and so forth, and that is where it became purposeful. I need to do my best here. I can get a scholarship to whatever university. That's what she did. She got a scholarship, right? So there was purpose behind what she was now working towards. It wasn't about ignoring her friends and stuff. She didn't ignore everybody, but she definitely changed her behavior. So when you can answer this question, or even like for myself, I can help a client see why they're coming to like my workshops or why this information is so important. It's truly amazing. You get both sides of this hemisphere, because our brain has the left hemisphere and the right one, and the left side is more is an analytical problem solver, and the right side needs to know why, wants to know what is this, what's happening. And so when you get them two sides working together, you find that you can accomplish your goals so much faster than you ever could have imagined, because it's like the thing, it clicks, right? So I'm not going to be before you that long. See, we're already at 8 minutes, but I do have a little exercise. It's just a few questions. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. By achieving this goal, how will it feel? Right? When you achieve each of your goals, ask yourself this series of questions. So the first one is, how will it feel? How will it impact your life? What will happen if you don't achieve this goal? Considering all of this, why do you want to achieve this goal? Next question, what does this mean to you? Next question, why does this matter? And then why? That's a question you can continue to ask yourself until you really get to the core reason for your goal. It might seem annoying right now, but that's probably because you haven't gotten to the core reason for your goal yet, right? I had to fulfill, talking about myself for a moment, something within me. I made a promise to my mother about a month and a half before she passed. So I was a teenager at the time. High school was not going well for me, because the whole time I was in high school, she was sick. And so as you're seeing things progress, my grades are also progressively getting worse, and there was no therapy happening. There's nobody that is talking about what we're seeing and what we're experiencing, and none of us knew how to deal. But I do realize that about a month and a half before she passed, she had a talk with me about certain things she wanted to make sure she says to me while she's able to say them. and whatnot. And I promised her that I would never give up on my education and whatnot. And, after she passed, I was 17, and I really had a hard time. It took me, what I felt anyway, much longer than maybe it should have. But I mean, that's just what it was. But it did take me a considerable time to finish the education. I finished high school. I had to make up that school year because I really did not perform well academically. Understandable, but still, I have to make up those classes that I didn't pass that semester. She passed over Christmas holidays, right before Christmas, the 23rd, and then the following semester, I got a couple of credits, but the bulk of that school year, I didn't get most of the credits, right? But in the back of my mind, I never forgot the promise that I made that I wasn't going to give up. She knew what was not too far away for her and how this was going to change things within me and our family dynamic. And she was my shero, like she was my cheerleader, supported me no matter what, all the things, no matter what. And she knew she wasn't going to be with me for much longer. And so, for me, finishing and completing my education, fulfilling that promise, is still wrapped with some sadness, and it can be hard to talk about. I'm congested now because I'm fighting off a cold. But what I did way later in my life decide to do was look at it as just honoring her. I can honor her. I made a promise to her. I've fulfilled it. I made the promise to myself also, and I feel really good about it. I went back to school as a grown woman, as a mature student, and I completed something within the legal field, paralegal, that, let me tell you, if she was here right now, I'd say, that is my data. See, because it's almost equivalent to a lawyer for her. That's a story for another time, right? So there was a purpose attached to this for me, making sure that I completed what have you, because I always had a desire to go back to school, so on and so forth. And so it was hard on the emotional side of things, but it wasn't too hard because I had made up my mind, nothing is going to stop me. That includes getting married, leaving the country, having a military, an army, active duty husband, and living in different countries, and you move every so often, having children. That did not make it easier. It put more things on my plate. And then when we were no longer married, I still had not completed school yet. And so I was now 100%, and I was trying to, within that period of time, different obstacles. I just didn't give up. And so asking the question, why is this, why, until you get to the core, is really something that you might be pleasantly surprised at the answer when you complete the deep dive. And that's what I hope for you. But that's what I've got for this evening. Tomorrow, I don't remember what tomorrow is, but it'll be another part of the series. We have Thursday and Friday. There's 2 or 3 more days. I really hope that you enjoy the information, that you find it helpful to you. And, please like, again, when you watch the video, please like. If you haven't subscribed, also do that. And if you have a comment or a question, feel free to ask within reason. Just be decent, Yeah. That's what I got for you tonight. You have a blessed rest of your night.